Attempting a mock test is one of the most quintessential strategies that we need to keep in mind while preparing for CLAT and several other law exams. Greetings everyone, I am Bhavya and we are going to talk about how to prepare and how to strategize for attempting a mock test while preparing for CLAT and other law exams. Foremost, you should keep in mind that quickness, agility, responsiveness, and accuracy are 4 parameters that make this exam competitive. And getting a hold over these 4 things will make you really well and capable to solve the exam on the final day. Analyzing the time limit of these tests. When we speak about the CLAT examination, 150 questions have to be solved within 120 minutes. This long, sprawling test having lengthy passages has to be solved within time. But fear not, the time travels at the same speed for every CLAT taker. Speaking about the ALET examination, 150 questions have to be solved in it within a period of 90 minutes. The ALET exam doesn't have many of comprehension questions, and these questions are individualistic in a sense that they need to be solved separately, which makes the matter a little quick. When we speak about the third exam, that is the LSAT. LSAT requires you to churn your mind and employ critical thinking. This is the paper which provides you 140 minutes for 92 questions. Now, when we speak about the Symbiosis Law Admission Test, it gives you as much time as many questions are there in the exam. In my batch, 75 minutes were given for a total of 75 questions that were asked in the examination. Talking about the Maharashtra Common Entrance Test, it is same as CLAT. The questions are individualistic, but a total of 150 questions have to be solved within 120 minutes. Talking about where to start from and where to end, it is generally recommended that whatever sequence of solving section suits you the most, you should opt that sequence. But I prefer doing general knowledge first, because general knowledge section confers many advantages if you solve it in the beginning. We all have certain nervousness when we try to give any exam. So, general knowledge is one section that takes less time if you know the answers and have prepared really well. Also, this section will help you develop confidence that you require for other critical sections of the paper. While you complete with the general knowledge section, it is recommended that you move on to the legal reasoning section. And why legal reasoning section is a very good question that we should ask ourselves. Legal reasoning and aptitude, one section that is found in almost all law exams except for the LSAT exam. This section is very important. Not only does it cover a very heavy weightage, around 25% of the entire paper of the CLAT and ALET examinations, legal reasoning is also important in the sense that it is a tiebreaker. And when we speak about tiebreaker, ALET has also adopted it as its stage 1 tiebreaker this year onwards. So it is very important to do this section with utmost efficacy, with your mind and senses fully devoted to this section. It is very important to do this section in early stages of solving the paper, because one should not risk it for later intervals when stress is upon your head in much more intensity. So, legal reasoning is the second section which is very much important for the CLAT examination as well as the ALET examination. After you are done with the legal reasoning section, your discretion plays a major role at this stage. It is a general observable pattern that we all develop by giving repetitive mocks during the preparation process, that we get to realize that what section is a strong area. So after you have done with the legal reasoning, it is recommended that you pick up the English section if you have a tendency to score better in it at this stage of time, and if not, you should pick up the logical reasoning section if you feel that you are able to cope with it at this stage rather than taking it after the English section. So it is very much recommended to the aspirants that whatever section suits them the most out of these two should be taken given the time and the stress level that they are feeling at this particular point of time. Remember, these two sections are very important. 70% of the ALET exam and 40% of the CLAT examination are dependent upon the sections that are English as well as logical reasoning. After completing the English and the logical reasoning section, it is very much recommended that you begin with the quantitative techniques or the mathematics section at this stage. This section is relatively tricky than other sections of this examination, and per question time required to solve each question is also relatively more as compared to the questions of other sections. This is the reason why this section is kept for the end of the examination, so that other crucial areas of the exam are not compromised with. But here's a discretion again. If you feel that this section is an area where you score the most, or with the help of certain techniques and shortcuts you employ, that you can ace this section with maximum score, it is very much recommended that you can even toggle it with other sections of the exam and can take it at earlier stages. Let us now talk about one of the most crucial questions of this examination. Time. How to devote time. How to manage time while attempting a mock test. How to solve the long sprawling sections of this immensely never-ending exam. But worry not, I have a golden strategy for you here. Something I call sectional time ceiling. The idea is simple. Keep a pre-decided time limit for every section and make sure that you have to complete that section within the decided time frame at all costs. Remember, crossing even 1 minute more than what is prescribed for a section can be very harmful to your score. Earmark it and see it as a Lakshman Rekha, a boundary that you don't have to cross at any cost. Starting with the GK section, 10 to 15 minutes should be your limit for the entire section. You have to answer around 3 questions every minute. Come on, this is not a heavy task. GK is something that you either know or do not know. There's hardly a midway of uncertainty in between. And even if there is uncertainty, studies show that under constrained time limit, the mind picks up the correct option in the first stance. If you have read about it anytime during the preparation, you are going to mark it right. In CLAT, many questions don't require you to read the entire passage and are factual. But in certain cases where analytical GK is tested, taking some more seconds has no harm. In ALET and other law exams, factual questions not related to processual passages are asked. The quickness in these exams should even be more, except for the LSAT exam that does not test general knowledge of candidates at all. Remember, the goal is to wind up as quickly as possible in the general knowledge section so that you can achieve more and more time and you are left with it for the other sections. Remember one thing, questions on literary and poetic devices should be carefully dealt with. A time of 25 to 28 minutes is more than enough for the English section. Questions which ask you about the common idea of the passage and intentions of the author at specific stages should be solved by taking an overall stance of the issue at question. Don't hesitate to take a few more seconds in these questions. The logical reasoning section comprises of critical reasoning passages that are relatively lesser in words. Reading them carefully and thought process should be given the majority of time. Some questions in CLAT also test analytical areas like analogies, syllogisms, and direction senses. These areas can definitely fetch you marks quickly and with guaranteed accuracy, provided that you master them beforehand. For the CLAT exam, 25 to 28 minutes are enough for this logical reasoning section. While the stance of ALET is relatively different. Apart from the heavy unpredictability of this section in ALET, it can be lengthy and time-taking to a much extent. The 2019 ALET exam entailed critical reasoning in immensity, while a majority of questions that were asked in 2020 tested analytical areas including adamant puzzles. The goal should be to pick as many questions that you are sure to answer with accuracy and strike a deal that can fetch you as many marks as you require to get through it. The quantitative technique section is hard to reach, but keep one thing in mind. If reached, it can make a huge difference to your score and your resultant success. A good pick of 5 to 8 questions that are correct in both ALET and CLAT exams is more than enough, provided that you have already done well in other sections of both these examinations. A time of 10 minutes for this section is more than enough. But here again, endemicity should be taken into consideration. There can be many who do well in quantitative techniques when they pick it at the beginning, and others who generally prefer to avoid it, given the shortage of time. Since no particular strategy completely works well on every person, continuous experimentation to find out your desired fit, your desired strategy should be the end goal of your preparation for the D-Day.